course. Tough first half, especially second quarter. Is it simple as work rate?
It looks that way, yeah. So we challenged the boys at Sydney are getting more numbers to all the contests. So that's certainly something that we're looking at amongst ourselves.
And look down the forward line. I mean, Kennedy and Darling, they're looking in really good form once the ball gets down there. It's just a matter of getting it down there to them.
Yeah, it is, yeah, and that's a challenge. You know, our midfield is not winning enough for the footy, really. Sydney are getting good use of it. So, yeah, there's a few challenges for us. We've got to get our hands on the ball more, but we certainly have to run more.
Thanks for your time. Wish good luck.
Thanks, mate.
I don't think there's a bigger challenge than in terms of midfield matchups than this Sydney Swans. And they're in full flight in the second quarter. Let's see what the Eagles have brought with them for the start of the third. Natanui beaten by Mumford. Wellingham into the middle. A high one. You camped under it for a while. Bird, typical Sydney determination. Couldn't take the mark. Good tackle from McVeigh.
Be disappointed, Bird, because he had the open jump at that ball and just didn't get his hands right when trying to mark it. Just needed to wrap that ball up tight and would help protect himself as well.
Canterbury sends it out of the wing. Glass was losing ground. He was trying to hang on for dear life. So it looks like we've got the sub made. Cale Morton's on the ground.
Luke Shuey's out of the game.
That's not going to help the Eagles' cause, you wouldn't think. Mumford down to Kennedy. Saw off a couple and then the handball to White. He's got Rampy running and there he is. Just had to wait. I really would have desired, allowed the Eagles to come in. Natanui, the knees dirty, got it out to Brown and then to Hill.
Well, they haven't seen the ball, unfortunately. Jack Darling was charging down the middle and went the other side of his vision.
Richards had a different view, of course, so he was able to get it to Everett safely, who's bounding forward, sending it high. Bolton in front. The spoil was effective. Tippett kept on coming. Lamb again looking for his third, and it's thinking about it. That's the post.
Just on that sub, guys, it is Morton's obviously on and Shuey's off. You can see him there putting the vest on with the jacket and tracksuit pants. So it's obviously a fair bit of pain.
Well, a real shame for Luke Shuey and the Eagles, because you'd reckon it won't be just a one-week injury. But an opportunity for Cale Morton, who's trying to reignite his career.
Darling, so all hands on deck for the Eagles. Takes the mark at half-back. A little glance into the middle. Guess they've got to take a chance or two. That was bold. Got it to Glass, and now to Gaff on his left. Kennedy demanding it. And takes the mark. Forward of the centre. Looks up into the fifth. Josh Hill is the man on his own. They've got, if he can get it in deep enough, and here is Hill. McCra's working back to the square, but now Hanbury is going to help out for the Swans. McCra still seen there. The zigzag.
Well, he's entitled to go back and have a shot. There wasn't an obvious opportunity. They've got Natanui on the line. They've got Darling also.
19 goals for the season for Josh Hill. Natanui reaching over the top. It's a minor, so the Swans lead now is 32.
And again, a very quick kick out. This time the Eagles press a little bit more resistant. Let's see if they can block the holes.
Vay, well done from McKenzie. Hill changed his mind at the last minute. Swinging around, Selwood succumbed to this relentless Sydney pressure. Rampy sat up on top of him. Hutchings, Smith, again, Howard tried to angle it off the outside of the boot. Unfortunately, didn't go the way he was after. So no gain, ground or conceded in the first 3 and a bit minutes of this third term. Hanbury sends it up to the wing. White from Brown.
This is where West Coast, this is what John Worsfold's asking for, getting numbers around, but then getting first hands on the ball from these situations when he spoke to Cam Mooney just after half-time.
Well, he's looking for a response here, John Worsfold. Not even worried about the result. He just wants to see a plausible, serious result and response from his players on the ground.
Hutchings to Pritis. unintended consequences there. And now the Swans are bolting again. Jack just missed the mark for a rare occasion. It's Ash Smith in amongst all of that. Just did enough for the umpire to keep the whistle away. And now we're going to have another restart out on that wing. So it's hard yards at the moment for the West Coast Eagles. Trying to dig in here. They trail by 32. Gets the tap down. Mumford.
This was in the first passage of play for West Coast going forward, and look, they had the overlap here with Kennedy getting out, then Selwood pushes down through the middle of the ground, and this is where Sydney start doing their best work. They all start pointing, they all roll over with each other, and yes, Joshua may get out, but he gets out wide because Sydney defenders take the most dangerous.
Back to the live action, slapped away by Mitchell. White again as they start to gather the numbers at half forward. Didn't panic when he slipped, got it off to Hanbury. Well done, Selwood.
Yeah, once again, good athleticism from Jesse White. He went down, the boots failed him, but he was up and he quickly got a handball away. He's fighting for his spot. He knows there could be something significant on the end of it at the end of the year. He's got to keep his position, and there's some high talent looking to take it.
Quick kick from Jack. Eagles have an extra. Tippett, and now O'Keefe. Smith. Might have earned a free for that.
Well, he has, but it's even that one there, Jared, where O'Keefe gets to the front first. That's the one where Pritis' opponent needs to push in front of him to get that front square ball first, because that's what the coach is asking for. In first, get hands on it first.
Yep.
Stop those deep entries from Sydney.
Most delicate of kick-ins, and the next one down the line, the Pike just monsters Wellington, takes the mark. Tippett screaming for it at the top of the square. It's coming, and here comes Tippett. Doesn't quite make it. He didn't quite go as far as desired. Now Morton has it in his hands and stretching out Gaff again at that familiar gate, and he kicks it out very, very wide as they hug the boundary.
Good take from Lacroix. Wasn't the easiest of kicks.
It's a long way home from there.
Master's come off the bench.
Yep.
But can he get in his vision?
Smith couldn't see him. Still didn't spot him in the end, so maybe he can be involved in the next passage of play. Gaff, this time coming on his wrong side, so turns onto the left, angles the kick up into the middle. Brilliant anticipation again by O'Keefe. Saw it all before his eyes. Got it down to Bird and now to Lamb. Tippett got in a good position, got McKenzie where he wanted him. The kick went out in front. McKenzie came late, got it away. Reflexes had to be quick from Brown. Got it across to Natanui and now to Pritis. They can run from half back at last. Selwood, sharp kick into the middle. Again, Lacroix, and they've worked it to half forward. What's going to happen here? Cale Morton's going to have some time. Cale Morton's going to see it all ahead of him. From 40 out, Cale Morton for the Eagles to endear himself to the locals. He puts it through. Maybe that could be the start of something.
Well, good on him, Cale Morton. Opportunity last week as the sub. Last quarter came on. Fremantle were able to get and dominate that quarter, so didn't find much of the ball himself. Ran around well, but just couldn't get his hands on the ball. So some reward here and a half a footy really to build in to finding some footy, finding some form for himself, and that's a great start with his first opportunity today, pushing inside forward 50. He's got an elite running ability. Kicked a nice goal.
A real opportunity now for Cale Morton. Here's the chain how it took effect, and it was Cale Morton who took them on, and he let go from about 45 metres out, which was a challenging kick, but he was up to the task. But a genuine opportunity now as we see the flipper out the back for the Eagles to get back-to-back goals and get back into this match.
Carter to Dalziel, but that's where it ends.
There's the flipper.
I'm sure Shane Warne really likes the fact that he's one of his great trump cards. Jared's now a footy term, but it's good stuff, isn't it? Great to watch the artwork of Nick Natanui as a ruckman.
Well, courageous stuff there, just standing totally exposed from Cale Morton, hands up, could have done a rib there, got it completely smashed as he was, but that's part and parcel of it.
Well, he's playing spare man down there at the moment, Jared, so that makes that last goal even greater. The work rate that we spoke about with Woosh at half-time, you know, running down the length of the field to kick that goal, then sprinting back to play that spare man again. That's the work rate that he's talking about that they desperately need.
I'm with you too, Moons. I think pound for pound they were really embarrassed in their work rate in the second term. We know they had a tough game last week against the Dockers. It was a really tough campaign. In fact, they've had a tough month, but you can't go down in the mind that early in a match, and they've rebounded to some degree. Got to still get another couple of goals.
Got hold of the footy a lot early in this quarter. They've been able to maintain it pretty well.
Well, Sydney still with 9 players yet to touch it in this quarter with nearly 10 minutes gone, and West Coast only with the couple. So that's what it's about, getting their hands on it, getting more players involved in the contest, and slowly you can bridge the gap back.
Parker clinging on brilliantly was Marston. They're the little things that can become big things very quickly. And the ball over line and out of bounds.
Cox and Natanui get involved a little bit more as well in this quarter. Andrew Embley
Seem that interested.
he's just looking down at the moment.
Some numbers.
Working out what to do next.
Holding the ball. Exactly, met with approval. And the Swans players argue over whose free it is. Parker needed a possession. He took it, Melcheski.
He's gone straight to Kyle Morton, who's the spare. He's got to have more impact than that.
Jack in the box, jumped out, picked it up and puts it through. Brilliant stuff again.
Well, that was just a poor kick going in from the Sydney Swans. And there they have 2 players, both of whom didn't get a glove on the ball. And there's Kieran Jack just pushing forward, kicking another goal and putting his hands up for best on ground honours.
You're right, the impact needs to come. If you're the spare sitting back, you've just got to bring that ball forward as a minimum. Get it going back the other way, over the back as the spare. That's what happens.
14 contested possessions and 2 goals too. What a dynamo he is, Kieran Jack. And the Swans lead by 32. Cox against Pike. Wellingham starting to find it. Marston up to the 50. They can get it in there. There's some talent for the Eagles, that's for sure. But Darling and guess who? Ripping it away. Jack decides to bounce. And now the reinforcements. Melcheski clean out to the wing. Parker. Got McVeigh to work with. Hit up the next target. He's been pretty handy.
Been very good.
For 7 games, very impressive.
Short. This is Brandon Jack. And Tippett, well done. That time Morton did have an impact. Oh, unfortunately. Sure, it is. Yeah, Mackenzie.
Well, the midfield umpire didn't put his hands up, but the umpire deep in attack for the Swans end, he did.
Jude, thank you.
It's Jude Bolton. Used to be a main player. Now he's just a role player, a bit player of the like. Without, that's not being critical, just at his age. He'll be there in September, you know that, because he's been there before and he's done it under all sorts of pressure. And he just coolly goes back and drills another for the Swans.
Champion player, Jude Bolton. And look, he's had the 7 disposals today, now on the scoreboard, but 4 tackles as well. Inside forward 50 for the Sydney Swans today. So he sets the tone up there. He's the one who helps set them up, guide the younger players that are around him as well, especially the likes of Jed Lamb, who would be up and about and be looking for Bolton just to show that guidance on a regular basis.
A couple of stars for the West Coast that are sorely missed at the moment, Selwood. And
Yep.
inside 50 numbers tell the story. 36-17. It's a real effort required now for the West Coast Eagles.
Wellingham paddles. He had someone in mind too. Gaff just eased the ball. Darling, was there any contact high? Not so, according to the umpire, O'Keefe.
Just so many red and white jumpers around the contest. I mean, this is the sort of simple stuff that John Worsfold will be really exasperated about. Numbers at the ball. He spoke to Cameron about it. He's getting half a response, but it's going to have to double.
Gaff, does he chance his arm? No. Sets it up, gives everyone an opportunity to fly, and they did. Hill walked that tightrope. Mitchell knew what to do. Smith, McVeigh, good effort to keep it in. From Schofield first, then Natanui, then Wellingham. Now Morton dabs it back for Glass. Does he wind up the old stage? No, gives it to the youngster in just his second game. Carter could have handballed to Hutchings. Instead, he had a fly at goal.
Just Lamb on the smother, then just came in with the one hand. Handball was over the top, but had that chance, and Rampy showing some good strength there.
Maybe a little
enormous strength, a little bit high perhaps, but geez, he's got good upper body strength.
Here's Natanui.
That handball needed to go again, Hutto.
The give for Carter.
Yep.
Smith. Short to Lamb. His 14th disposal. Somewhat of a breakout game for Lamb. Along the wing. Jesse White continues to grow in confidence, and the Swans are spreading hard inside the 50. It's Mumford and Bird versus Morton and Wellingham. Morton came hard enough, left the footy behind initially, but was able to gather it. And now they can work the outer side of the ground. Tough one for Cripps, though. McVeigh turned around. Good resilient stuff by the Swan skipper. Look at him go hard. Cripps equal to the task on that occasion and forces a draw. And the plaudits of his teammates. What a magnificent season Jared McVeigh is having. Another 14 disposals today. 13 kicks and 1 handball. Oh, that's gone.
He did get it on the boot in the end, but not according to the umpire.
Argues his case. Meantime, the footy goes back to the 50. Hill! Using the R's, but not the mark.
Jack Darling copped a big knee in the back of the head.
Rampy. Breaks through. He might get it back. No, they're going to change direction. Instead, across the ground, Bird. Wide kick for Jesse White. Now Hanbury shapes the kick back for Mitchell. Brown's there. Has good support. Morton, oh, he hesitated with the handball. Maybe a little lucky to get away with that. It's an interesting kick. Out wide for Dalziel. Gaff comes off the ground looking exhausted. The job is really ahead of the West Coast Eagles here. 37 points behind. The Sydney Swans have had a great weekend if they can go on with this, with both Geelong and Fremantle losing. Melcheski. Deep kick for Tippett. McKenzie has position A and should be able to use it. He's got Morton there in support. It's all the short stuff, though, for the Eagles at the moment. Glass changes things up a little bit. Still they're hemmed in. Marston can go over the top to Brown. That opportunity is passed now.
Selwood pushing out the middle, in fact, it's Schofield.
Takes it. And good run, that's what they needed, some run and some hunt from behind. Smith to half forward, Wellingham over his head. Kennedy, the cruelest of bounces really, and it favoured Grundy, who was last on the scene, but he's the man who was able to take it away and kick it to Melcheski.
Well, Mumford's working really hard down the middle, providing him an option, but also getting that Nui out of the way.
It's a 50, I suspect against Wellingham, was it Jono? I think he's the only one anywhere near the scene of the crime. So I guess he must have walked over the mark.
Too short.
So Melcheski, he's got Tippett deep. It's a little predictable. And the Eagles' defence on guard. But it's been a good quarter really for the Swans, because the Eagles have come hard and have made no ground. That is holding the ball. Here's the 50 from Wellingham.
Put the arms up as well. So you get in the area, but then if you put your arms up as well,
it's just
that's an automatic 50.
It's such an irrelevant thing, though, really. Sure why it's 50. Even though we've heard the explanation, yes, 50.
Punishment doesn't really fit the crime there, does it, Hutto, on that one?
No, I don't think so. 12-9-81 to 6-8-44.
Bring back the 15-man penalty.
Parker into the 50. Again, Morton working overtime back there. Tippett found a way to get it on his boot. Jesse White and Glass. Morton to Glass again.
Well, they've got some numbers here, Hutto, and they should be able to just spin this one up the ground, except it was dropped, and here come the cavalry with red on.
Yes, and they come in numbers. Hanbury, little flick through. Kieran Jack, always team orientation. Jesse White thought it was a chance for a bit of a specky and a fly. Lamb, Bird, and Glass. But it's all being played in that end of the ground at the moment.
Second quarter was the same. West Coast started this third quarter really well, but Sydney have been able to just take control back again.
Through the legs of Hanbury. Hutchins. Hanbury again. Just keep feeding it around. Back out to Hanbury again until there was an opening. Cale Morton.
He's getting in the right spot. He's seen plenty of footy. This will be disposal number 10 for the quarter.
Running around in circles there. Out to the wing. Rampy will come late, and another commanding performance in the air from the Swans to smash that over the line.
Jared, there's no point having a spare man if you're not going to then run the ball out with handball. If you're just going to get it and then kick it back down the line, it just defeats the purpose of having that spare man down there.
Yeah, spot on. If you can't turn it into an attack that gets it out of the defence, you might as well just go one-on-one. But the Swans just doing it too easily at this stage. Grundy having a good quarter, and they're going to spin the ball the other side of the ground. They've got Smith wide. The kick, not all that flash. And here's one of the great pressure forwards in the competition. Darling in pursuit.
Went to ground though, and Richards able to gallop away. Good work from Darling. Didn't give up on it. The kick away. Look at that. It's a bullet to Kieran Jack.
He went back to Richards. Richard used the ball pretty well, but not as well as Malcheski. Could have stayed probably with Malcheski. Waited for more reinforcements before pushing back up to put some pressure on Richards.
Mike Pike drags it down. Now Parker.
And the race is on.
Let them run. And Everett does that. Taking no chances. The time to bend down and pick it up. Or he's just about cooked though, Everett. Well done, Schofield. Was in hot pursuit. Just didn't quite work out there for Andreas Everett, did it? Quick ball. And it goes for Cox.
Pretty stagnant though. He's looking for something up the ground, and it's Gaff that provides it. And they're going to need some more to take a lead from his work rate.
Dan Cox just the 5 disposals for the day.
Well, that's one of their problems. They're just not getting that same level of athleticism and extra midfield results out of the two big blokes.
Yeah. Here's Kennedy. A long, long way away from where he'd like to be. All he can do is heave it, get it up quickly. Parker into spoil. Malcheski likewise. Hutchings and Hill. Richards. Oh, that's in the back. Oh, I didn't see it. Maybe he over-exaggerated. Jack and Schofield. Kennedy.
Interesting handball.
Oh, Mumford's gone down. He's up quickly though this time. Glass. Settles on Selwood.
They've held on pretty well here, the West Coast Eagles. They've controlled the ball, but it just seems very difficult for them to conjure up a score.
Really been able to actually get it into the 50 though, have they, with any real style. Ooh.
Got one right on the chin. That's it. It's just been that high ball going in. That's where Sydney like just get their numbers around. It's just so tough around the footy.
This time it's Lacroix playing loose, but the bounce of the ball has absolutely killed him. Not a bad tackle. Mumford let it go to ground. Good effort from Lacroix.
Very good effort, but again, slight skill error lets them down. And the Swans are on the fly again, or are they? Lamb. A little tender with the handball, and does it go anywhere?
Take possessions now, Lamb. Starting to rack them up.
And that one is out of bounds on the full.
Just so stagnant, though, West Coast here, Jared. You look from where Smith is now, there's not much movement going on. They're starting to get things going now, running into some space, but they're just forced so wide.
Need a fast break, inside handball, and away they go.
Dalziel to Hutchings. Looks up, all his teammates were coming at him.
Once again, just that pressure from the Swans. This time it slides out.
Heartbreaker for Cripps.
Boundary umpire has not read the script as far as Cripps is concerned. Spares at the back here, the Eagles, if they can get it into the middle, but the Swans are just dominating inside.
Now Kieran Jack again. Makes a rare error. Wasn't a great handball at all. Wellingham. The numbers gather through the middle for the Eagles. Wellingham again, the former Pie. Here's Cripps. This time he looks up, sees nothing but Swans jumpers ahead.
Well, no one's pushing forward, Hutto. Everyone's got their hands on their hips.
Yep.
High ball up into the 50. Opportunity for the Swans defence first and foremost though. O'Keefe and McVeigh and Milcheski and Parker. It's a similar story and a disappointing one for the Eagles fans at the moment. Jesse White flew high, but Pike dragged it down. He's had more and more influence as the day's gone on. Such a solid mark. O'Keefe. Tough for Brandon Jack that time. And young Carter takes the mark. Smith. Morton in the middle. He goes back to Cox and the frustration builds for the West Coast fans. Gaff. No free kick, so it's a Sydney ball again. McVeigh's got Kieran Jack is powering forward here, but the kick just didn't have it. Oh, it might get through to him after all. No. 20 seconds to go in this third term, and there's some very tight boys out there, Moons.
They are, Hutto. And look, the one thing you talk about when you're an interstate team coming across here is trying to shut the crowd out. I actually heard the boys say it in the warm-up. You really want to just make the crowd quiet, and you can hear an absolute pin drop out here at the moment. The only time they're actually saying or doing is just in disappointment when the Eagles boys do something wrong. And you spoke about the work rate just before, Jared, about those boys not pushing inside 50. You could see the wall of Eagles players just outside, and that's just really poor work rate, as we've spoken about. None of them pushed in there to make it an even number if they could. Then you just saw Sydney just handball it out with 2 or 3 extra numbers. Just too easy.
Only seconds remaining, and they pass now. The siren sounds. Sydney have won another quarter. Quiet quarter it was in terms of scoring, just 2 goals to 1. But Sydney lead by 37. There's still a glimmer of hope for the West Coast Eagles, but that's all it is at the moment. They need to get things going very, very quickly their way, Jono.
Well, they do. The start of the next quarter, they need to get the first 2 on the board, start to build that momentum. Sydney have just dominated this game so far.
We're back with the final quarter right after this. Terrific atmosphere at Patterson Stadium. The expectations high. A huge day for the West Coast Eagles in search of a victory against an old foe in the Sydney Swans. It was the Swans that came out hard. It was an outstanding opening quarter. Some of the lesser lights for the Swans, like Jesse White hitting the board. Shuey back in the team. Came back hard for the Eagles, but Tippett popped up to kick a goal. The Swans narrowly by 6 points at quarter time. But the second quarter all belonged to the red and white. Lamb started to rack up a couple of goals. Parker put through another one. The goals were going through from every angle. They kicked 6 goals to 2 in that second quarter. Pike had the edge on Natanui. At half-time, it looked like it was going to be difficult for the Eagles, made tougher by Shuey being subbed. Again, Pike was flying high, and Kieran Jack was popping up everywhere. A dominant performer by the Sydney star midfielder. Josh Kennedy was doing his bit. It might have been a tough day for Shane Mumford, but the real pain being felt by the West Coast Eagles, who were 37 points behind at three-quarter time. The Sydney Swans, 12-9-81, lead the West Coast Eagles 6-8-44 at Patterson Stadium. The midfield has been dominant again. Hanbury with 31, Jack with 27, and O'Keefe with 20. As we get down to Cameron Moon, it's been an exhausting affair, Moons. I mean, you'd think the Swans would go on with it, but maybe that's the best hope of the Eagles, is that they might tire a little.
Well, you think they will go on with Hutto. We spoke pre-game about the inside 50 targets with Tippett really dominating, having 43% of the inside 50s since round 13. Here we are just looking at it here. That is a massive amount of number going to one individual. They became a little bit predictable. Today, completely different story. We talk about Pike, who came up with, I think he's had 5 inside 50 targets. Tippett's had the 4, so it's still a pretty high number. But the most important thing for Sydney, they've had 9 individual goal kickers. Very unpredictable.
Yeah, many of their midfielders contributing. Dan Hanbury's got 1. Kieran Jack's got a couple. Kennedy's had 1 goal too. Jed Lamb's kicked a couple. Luke Parker's got a goal. Tom Mitchell had opportunities. They have spread it right across the board.
Mumford, back down nicely by Prittis. Mulligan gets them up towards full forward, the centre-half forward area. Rampy, Marston. Nothing doing now.
Now that's where Sydney is so good, and they have been all day today, in the fact that if it just go forward like that with a bit of a chaos ball, they're just able to lock it in and get themselves set.
Free kick to Mumford. Dan Louis looks a little confused by it all.
I can see why.
Ted Richards sends it out for Pike. It's a hard effort from Tippett. Not paid. Brandon Jack later tackled. Maybe the man didn't have the footy. Wellingham. Schofield saw off 1. Good ball movement by hands. It's the area where Sydney have had the advantage for much of the day. Cripps, long kick to Cox. Plenty on it. Everett got back. Did he interfere? No, he didn't. He just won the ball and gave it to Richards. Darling. McVeigh. Oh.
Good pressure here from the Eagles. This time the Swans pull a free kick, but just some positive signs here for the home team. The Swans now under the pump. And a high tackle and a good decision.
Smith, a little nifty give out the side. Everett to half back. Tippett. Flying effort from Wellingham. His form's been pretty good, really. His return. McVeigh. Hanbury for Jack. He's going again to half forward to Jesse White, bounding out confidently. Mumford's pushed really hard forward. He hasn't seen him. Instead, it's short to Bolton. He'll look up now and he'll see Mumford, the height. He's got the advantage, the size over Gaff. He's got to get up and take it, and he does.
Oh, great mark. I mean, that's just a magnificent passage of play for the Sydney Swans. They got it off the half-back line, but it was the work rate of Kieran Jack that just got in front of Andrew Gaff that put some space between the Sydney Swans and the West Coast Eagles. He basically made the break that counted.
And again, we saw it with Hanbury earlier. It all started back with Mumford getting that free, which we thought was a bit dubious, and he's going to be on the end of it. It's just amazing, the amount of work rate in modern footy, but particularly from this Sydney Swans team. Shane Mumford puts it through.
But what they do as well, Jared, is they just flow with the footy. It's not always at speed. That's the thing. They just flow with the footy. They know exactly where it's at. And there's the power run that you're talking about of Kieran Jack. And they just push along. They just keep going. They keep going.
He's a good kick, this Jesse White. He's slotted up a couple of hard leads, just put it out in front. And here's the dangerous kick. Just the top of the square. And Big Mummy puts the hands up and drags down a really impressive mark.
Guys, you talk about Mummy's work rate. I mean, this is a guy when he was at Geelong. We used to do the 5K rower together, and he put in times that would have put him in the top 5 Australian best times in rowing. So he knows how to work. He's an absolute animal when he gets on the track.
Hard kick forward from O'Keefe. Down to Pike, wandering ball. Or Pike went down. Glass.
Here's the rebound off the half-back line. This is just a long kick in hope, and this time it hits a target.
It does. It was from McKenzie and it went to Darling. Posting up well was Kennedy and then to Marston. Got the edge here. Lacroix might have to go by himself. It's a little bit of an in-betweener, and Delzio's sort of hoping for a free kick.
Well, here it is here, and this backs up what you're talking about. There's his work rate just coming into screen. So that's from the back half of the ground where he's been able to work to there, keep moving in, keep moving in. The kick in the end is fantastic. Selwood can't do enough. Either can Gaff, and a big mark to Big Mummy.
Well, the hard work got him the mismatch, didn't it, in terms of the size of his opponents. Here's Lacroix again, perhaps on the brink of something for the Eagles. In good position, Darling. maybe drew some contact illegally. No, said the umpire. He's going to pay that one instead.
Well, it's just opening up a little bit here, and the Eagles are going inside forward 50. A bit stiff on the previous occasion. This time it looks like it's going to be paid. Darling charges forward, and yeah, fair enough. Over the top comes Malcheski and lobs in his back.
So Jack Darling, just 2 behinds to his name thus far. That's a good kick. Good strike, and the Eagles get one back.
Well, there's a little bit of excitement there from the hardcore supporters that follow the West Coast here at Patterson Stadium. There's the free kick there in the back to Jack Darling. And look, he was excellent last week, Jack Darling. We focused on him a fair bit in the pre-game. Jared, he kicked 5, but it was his defensive work as well. And that's what keeps this man in the contest, hit the scoreboard regularly. The fact that he works hard, he does everything with intent and speed. He's great to watch.
So Nananui's gone down towards the square. Hostilities resume. Cox. Mitchell came through. Schofield. Hanbury. It was actually designed for O'Keefe, but Mitchell got a piece of it. Hurried work though, marked by Smith.
He's shown some signs, Smith, across the half-back line. He's been one of the few prepared to rebound and work hard with the run.
He's had 22 disposals. It's a good day out. Yeah, he did mention there's been a lot of the Eagles' defence getting way more of the ball than they normally do. 22 to Smith. It'd be a long time since Darren Glass has had 21 disposals. Early into the last. Is that in the back? Not paid. Pritis. Bolton. They're circling a bit here, the Eagles. The Swans one after another are picking it up and being shut down.
No, not in the back, over the top.
Yep.
And lucky not to get a free kick there, Josh Hill, for holding the ball against the Swans.
Hanbury. Oh, it's quickly squashed over the line and out of bounds.
Well, the challenge for the Swans is to keep working. They know they've got this game where they need it. John Longmire won't be giving them any alibi at the present time, but you've got to fight against the natural tendencies to look at the scoreboard and just sit back a little bit. It's something the Swans have been able to do over the years, but it certainly looks as if the work rate's dropped off to some degree.
Holding the ball here. Pritis not going to make it wait around either. Drives it in for Kennedy. No free kick. Hanbury.
More numbers, Eagles jumpers around the ball.
Richards tried one on in defence. I'm not sure that's the place for that for Teddy. Morton sensed a little opportunity to give it plenty. And just misses the target. The long ball has one already.
They've gone quickly out of defence every time, it seems, but there's the tackle on O'Keefe. He doesn't get it out and he gets pinged.
Stayed down for a while. Base kick to half-back. It's coming in again, though. Brown, there's Eagles' hands flapping everywhere.
Pritis stays through. He's getting plenty of it at this final turn. He's had plenty of it all day, but getting really effective at the moment.
Moved on, and Cripps just ekes the kick out, and Nananui's takes it on the line to give some hope for the Eagles. They'll be within 29 points here.
Well, it works out. Pritis, as you said, finding plenty of ball. Generous Nananui's nails the opportunity, but didn't need to play on, so they were lucky there. Could have been nailed, and if he was, the ball would have just travelled very quickly up to the other end of the ground, but worked out in their favour, and Nananui's pushed the full forward and gets a clear jump here. Or no, actually does send it in the end. Grundy just puts himself in the way, but
just a little lucky there, Mick Nananui's.
Yeah, well, sometimes when you're on a bit of a dry spell, as Nananui's has been, you need a bit of luck. Hasn't kicked a goal in a month. It's his first. Let's see if he can generate some excitement out of this centre clearance. But the other issue is, will the Swans respond? They've just taken a little bit of intensity out of their work rate, and they will smell that they need to actually get back to business.
It's 29 with the home crowd behind them, and consecutive goals, the Eagles. Selwood, Bird, ad-libbed well. Now, Brandon Jack, a fumble initially, and then a big tackle. He realised it too late. He's been penalised.
O'Keefe has come from the ground, Cameron.
Yeah, he has, Jared. He's just walking in front of me, and he's a little bit sore in the head, no question about it, but I don't think he'll be coming off. He's ready to come back on, I think.
They still haven't brought the sub Cunningham on at this stage, so they've got that up their sleeve. The Swans, and this is going to be a brilliant tackle from Hill, and Smith caught unawares. Kennedy goes with it. Start to get the adrenaline pumping here at Patterson Stadium. No.
Had to kick it. The opportunity. Josh Hill's work was very good to chase down with that tackle, and then Kennedy had the opportunity.
McVeigh giving it plenty. Brown, Mumford, Glass. The tunnel ball action. Lacroix escaped the clutches. Dalziel. Again, the Eagles start to mount. Hutchings caught in the bear trap, but they kept it moving for a while. Quick kick back from Bird. Selwood should have that covered with the help of Brown.
Got the numbers now.
Yeah, they are running. Marston and kept a cool head, put it in front of Kennedy. He takes the mark. The Eagles starting to wind things up here. The crowd getting wound up as well. 28 points can become 22.
Will become 22, Hutto.
Putting it in the book, Jono.
Straight down. Get the record out. Get your pen, Jared. Mark it next to a goal.
Already marked it for you, Jono.
So Josh Kennedy for his 50th goal for the season. It had to be from a set shot. It had to be through. It's true. And the Eagles, believe it or not, are in this.
I see it, Jono.
But I don't believe it, Jared.
At this stage, the Swans have really just backed off, and the Eagles have upped their work rate. This is really good stuff. And the Swans will need to respond in a hurry, because at home, the Eagles crowd now are getting some value for money, and they will generate a little bit more intensity from the home side.
And Moons, the sub has been activated.
Yeah, the sub has been activated down here, guys. O'Keefe's the one who just made a complete liar of me. I just said he was walking around the boundary line. He looked fine. He's come off. He's obviously a big crook, and Cunningham's the one that's come on.
Okay, back out of the middle. It's Sydney that needs to respond, and respond they will. And this is the man that's come on, Harry Cunningham. And look at Harry go. Kicks it long towards full forward, and Tippett comes out and takes the mark. What a great move by John Longmire.
Magnificent move from Longmire.
Harry who, they were saying?
Harry's got some pace.
Yeah.
And Tippett's going around the corner.
And up the stairs into the second bay. It's a goal.
Well, that's an immediate impact right there, Jared. And they pushed Andreas Everett back around, brought their half forwards up. Cunningham was one of those, and they were able to get the ball out. And he's on the end of it with some speed. Fresh player on the ground. Dangerous spot again.
Well, McKenzie's done a really good job against Kurt Tippett. Kept him to one goal just prior to that. But it was a high-pressure kick in, which was well executed by Hattie.
Just his second game, Harry Cunningham had one last year after an impressive NAB Cup in 2012. Bereft of opportunities this year, but plenty of injuries for the Swans. Made the most of his moment there.
Look at the time in forward half this quarter. West Coast need to capitalise on that. A massive advantage, 72%.
Some hard yards from Bird. It's if they've been stung into action here, the Swans. And he goes again and put it on a plate for Mitchell. Tippett's one out, so he'd probably be doing well to get it in there quickly to him. Pike's there as well, the big fella. Glass took front position. Pike kept on going, kept on keeping on.
Getting better numbers down to support, though, this time, the Eagles, which hasn't been the case for most of the afternoon.
11 minutes remaining. Eagles cannot afford a goal here. Bit of confusion. Ball thrown up.
But Andreas Everett 100 metres back, just trying to cover any fast break opportunities.
Balcheski. Could have been a free to McVeigh. And that's over.
Well, Sydney will always set up that way. In the grand final last year, it was LRT. He was the one who would just continually sit back and stop the run of Hawthorn trying to go through there. So West Coast have that ability. It's good set-up play.
Mumford to Parker, who fought the good fight. Play on the call. It's hard to get it out of there. Lamb all wrapped up. Cox in front. Schofield. Now Marston. Kennedy. Back to Marston again. Pritis. Stays in. Schofield. Go! He's all go. Had a quick look behind. Nice little work on the outside of the footy, but Richards came well. Gave it to Grundy. Didn't help him too much. But look at that ball movement again.
Great hands from the Sydney Swans, and Rampy has been a revelation this year.
He has, and Hanbury saw off that tackle to Kennedy. They've clicked into gear through the middle. Rare fumble from Jack. Rare fumble. That'll give some hope to the Eagles.
Might have been his first mistake this afternoon for Kieran Jack. Just missed an inside handball, would have ended up at the other end of the ground. Good tap from Dean Cox.
Down to Lacroix and now to Kennedy. And off the left. Darling hits it hard. Looking for some mates. Didn't find too many, too close. Handball went to Melcheski again. Right decision at the right time. And the Swans are out of there. Lamb.
Right on Lacroix.
Good hands there from Gaff as well, controlling. Can he hit a target?
He can. Darling, not paid.
She's a concertina in on the key defender, or the key attacking targets brilliantly, the Sydney Swans defence, and that time they had 4 around Jack Darling.
3 goals, 3 to 2 straight in this last quarter in favour of West Coast. Marston.
Interesting.
Darling, top of the square. Hill. 4 Swans surrounded him.
Got the numbers back, but in come the support. That's a throw umpire.
Marston kicks the goal anyway.
Well, they're not dead yet, Hutto. They are absolutely still a chance here. Sydney Swans are flagging, and Marston has given them half a chance.
And this is where it starts. Look at Lacroix here, back with the fly. Toughest thing to do in footy. Stand under the high ball, get back with it, but then brings it down to the front. Doesn't take the mark, but then just keeps the ball in the forward half for the West Coast Eagles. They go down, pressure on again inside forward 50. And Marston this time is the one who gets the result.
Well, the hopes start to swell a little more for the Eagles. Under 9 minutes, but 22 points. You know the momentum in modern footy. How quickly you can hit the score.
Need the showstopper, Jared.
4-3 to 2 straight.
Good call for it.
He follows it up. Jams it to the boot. To 50. They come from all angles. Lacroix, Everett, face to face. Smith, all these handballs. Well executed this time for the Swans. Hanbury for Rampy. And they all bolt. It's going to go all the way to half forward. Following Morton at the moment. Jack paddles. Tippett. He does stay afloat. Brilliantly caught by McKenzie. Mitchell with old heave-ho. High ball. Pike. Kennedy. Pritis. Oh, watch the call, umpire. There's no call. Let's have a look at the kick from Bird. Misses.
Yeah, I think a few of the Swans players a bit frustrated on that call from the umpire. Pritis didn't look from this distance as if he had genuine contact with the footy.
Nervous glance from the coach at the clock.
And an easy out.
And McKenzie didn't realise it for a moment, but now he does. Kicks it to Selwood. McVeigh, a little confused by where it was, but boy's recovery was absolutely brilliant, Jared McVeigh. And the kick to half forward, right onto the chest of young Tom Mitchell. Kennedy demanding it long. Tippett is down there. So is Pike. Tippett flew. There is Kennedy. Broke through. Hanbury. And they're going to be hard to stop.
Well, it's just great competition from the two talls down there, Pike, and I think it was Tippett who came from the top of the pack. to bring the ball to ground, and just watch this for front and square work by Josh Kennedy, and then a quick break inside was Hanbury. Nice response with the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, excellent response, and you just see Kennedy's eyes light up. Jared, he knows he's in the right spot, especially where Tippett's coming from. The ball was always going to go in that direction.
Who's their best midfielder, Jared? I mean, how do you decide between them all? Hanbury's had 38 disposals and kicked 2 goals today.
I don't know the answer to that, Hutto, but generally the bloke with the ball in his hands will do me, because they've got 4 or 5 not far apart from each other. But at the moment, probably Kennedy holds the status.
Oh, Tippett. Didn't he fly there? Put it to ground. Hutchings. It's a bit like one of the old favourite sayings of your old colleague David Hooks about the last steak you've had is always the best. The last Swan who's just done something good is the one you think, how good is he?
You look at Josh Kennedy, he was best and fairest last year, could have won the Brownlow medal. Hanbury was in brilliant form, probably the most in form of the Sydney Swans in the first half a dozen games, and Kieran Jack's been brilliant, and O'Keefe has just been a star over a decade.
And now Kurt Tippett gets another opportunity. 10 disposals, 2 goals straight. That'll do. That will do for the Swans. It's through. They're back out beyond 5 goals.
Well, it's been a responsible champion team under pressure here in the last quarter. West Coast in the first 10 to 12 minutes started to really put some pressure on the Sydney Swans. But they've responded on the back of it, and Cunningham's been involved on 2 occasions now for 2 direct goals for his team.
Joe Kennedy, those last 2 handballs involved in the score involvements, and they're just not score involvements, they're goal involvements.
So he's going to end the day with at least 3 goals, Kurt Tippett, but a terrific contest between he and Eric McKenzie. Adenui, there's a little flipper out the back again, Jared.
Kennedy again just having an absolutely stellar 5 minutes.
Tippett, caught a few. Bolton, here he is again, Kennedy.
He had to make a blue. He's not quite 100% accurate, but he's had an incredible 5 minutes just to put this result to bed.
Margin 36 then. Morton has the back pocket to himself. Hence the decision to bounce and run. Melcheski, his reading of the footy is just amazing.
He's just worked his way into the game today. He was under pressure early and wasn't getting much footy. But as this game has settled down, he's settled down into it himself.
Tippett, Jesse White flew, but Darren Glass took the mark.
He's had a great game, Darren Glass, across that half-back line. He's taken so many marks, intercept marks.
Carter to McKenzie. And up to Darling.
Did well, Richard. He pushed right up hard. He was 30 metres away to block it up. It should create the turnover.
The kick was designed for Cox, but the Swans shut it down very quickly. Mumford, it's out of there through Smith. Cunningham, Parker, knew he was about to be tackled, so just jammed it on the boot. They fight amongst themselves on a rare occasion, the Swans. And it's now over to Andrew Gaff at half-back. Cox is loose in the middle. Pritis will see him. Shorter than that. Bit by bit, it's Morton again. To 14 disposals. Schofield looks like he's been moved forward. Ball is out of bounds. 4 minutes 43 to go. Hutchings, good stuff. Gaff on the wrong side. So it's a high ball for Darling, and there's nothing he can do there. Kick for Mitchell is clean enough. Now all the Swans players at the other side of the ground in the defensive 50, so Mitchell bides his time. Nothing he can really do other than go as long as he can, and that's a great result for the Swans.
That is a magnificent deliberate Magnificently disguised. It's just a little tap over the side. Such a strong man is Mike Pike.
We saw that earlier when he was too strong for Darren Glass.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen too many times. Cox down with Parker.
Taken high.
Frustration for Pritis. Another good game, Tom Mitchell. Slightly below his very lofty standards for a young man. His 18th disposal, but he's been very, very good. Played his part. To half forward, Mumford, McCrae, squeezed out here.
He's a high-end talent, is Tom Mitchell. We've seen some brilliance from him, both with the ball in his hands and when the ball isn't in his hands. He's won over the coaching staff with his defensive work.
Cox to Pritis, to Gaff, Cox again. Great strength from Kennedy. Still have that extra back inside the 50 though. Came into play there, Everett. Sees it out, so we're down to 3.5, and there's nothing John Worsfold can do now. They are really staring down the barrel. September looks a long, long way away. Cox. Sharp stuff for the Swans. Lamb initially, and then Melchescu comes up a little lane.
You mentioned the sharp stuff, though. That's been the tale today for the Sydney Swans. That's where they've been so good and a level above on today's performance. Just in around the ball, in around that contested situation where they're so clean with their hands. They get numbers in around.
Free kick to Hutchings. Coming in for his 18th disposal.
Well, just in full defence mode now, the Swans. They've got all players bar one behind the ball.
Marston takes it. We've crept into the last 3 minutes. It's really been the second term that was the telling one in this game. 6 goals to 2 in favour of the Swans. Hanbury calling on the defensive reserves to be a part of it. Well read by Morton. He's got plenty of options in the square. Rampy and Richards will close them out though. It's through for a behind.
Morton today started as a sub. Came on just after half-time with Luke Shuey. Didn't take any further part in the game. So he's finished with 15 disposals. Played as the loose in the third quarter. Picked up 10 disposals in that quarter. Continued good run in this last term.
Pass from the umpire. The Gaff, and here he is again, a flying shot at goal, another miss.
Well, when you consider they were 32 points down at half-time, the West Coast Eagles have done a pretty reasonable job to not be blown off the park, because that's what it looked like it could well have been just in that early part of the third quarter. They've hung on well, fought back well, and they maintained some momentum going into this next month of footy.
Jeske's finest kicking moment there. McVeigh. Smith. Outnumbered, but they've got the man in the right spot. That's Jesse White, and he has been a wonderful tail out of today, Jared.
He's been the big positive for the Swans. Hutto, we know the strengths of the majority of the list of the Sydney Swans, but there's a huge question mark on Jesse White's future, and he's answering.
A few other teams interested in him too, I would suspect, if things don't go the way the selection table with all the stars such as Adam Goods returns. Right now he's probably in the...
He's in the reckoning. You've got Sam Reid obviously to come back. LRT, here's the live ladder, and you'll see the Sydney Swans are in that prized 4th position. With Fremantle losing, and of course they're now under the pressure from Richmond, who are just 2 points behind.
And Essendon taking 2nd spot on the ladder today.
There's been a few moves.
Brilliantly worked again from the Swans. Kennedy to Hanbury. They all want to get one last piece. Jack stares it down, and the ball just creeps over the line for a goal.
While Hanbury gets up to 40 disposals in that passage of play, his day has been just at that top level. We know he can perform week in, week out. And Jack gets on the board as well now. So up to 11 individual goal kickers today, the Sydney Swans, and that's just been a young player who's had the 11 disposals, 6 of those contested, learning his way, finding his feet, doing a good job there.
Well, as you can see, they took it, swept it out wide, and then the inside kick was the dangerous one. Down the middle of the ground, and just 1 minute of play remaining.
Let's see who has the last opportunity. Will it be West Coast or will it be Sydney?
If you put the ball in Kennedy's hands, it'll turn into a goal in this last quarter, but he just fumbled it.
Instead, it's Gaff, maybe going for the other Josh. No, Rampy intervenes.
What a star this kid's become across that half-back line. It's hard to be a star, but he really has just slotted in, and he's got a huge leg on him.
Played with Williamstown, trained with the Bulldogs for a couple of pre-seasons, did not get an opportunity then, but opportunity now with the Sydney Swans, and just making every post a winner.
Carl Morton just got a reminder about what AFL senior footy's like there. Here's Kennedy again, but it falls for Lacroix. Hasty kick. Hutchings still working hard, but Kennedy to be in front in the Coleman. There's a little something for the West Coast to finish the day on. Kennedy puts through his 4th, but it's the Sydney Swans who prevail by 34 points in front of 35,000 at Patterson Stadium, and they look like they are going to be right in the reckoning when the whips are cracking in September. Another powerful performance led by the heart and soul of their midfield, and they've got some of the youngsters, the lesser lights, that are really making their own play to be part of it when it's all on the line at the end of the year.
Well, Hanbury was the star today. Kieran Jack kicked a couple of goals as well, and Kennedy was so good, especially when challenged in that last quarter. And look, right across the board, it was just their work ethic, their strength of movement from defence into attack. That's just a huge bonus for all players wearing the red and white today.
And you've got to consider that they've done the job without Jetta, Goods, Reid, etc. But I think we're going down onto the ground with Cameron Mooney.
Hey guys, I'm just down here just trying to find Dan Hanbury. Hang on a sec, boys. G'day, Dan. How are you, mate? Mate, never easy coming over here and just try and shut this crowd out. That second quarter, mate, you just completely blew the game apart.
Oh, it's one of the hardest tests in footy coming over here and playing against the Eagles, and they look to play for, so do we. They came out pretty strong and we had to match them, and they came pretty hard in that last quarter, but it's good to hold on, and it's a great win. It's always good winning over here.
Do you guys realise what an advantage you have through the midfield with so many numbers you can run through there?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, you saw Tommy Mitchell and Jed Lamb and stuff running through today. Harry Cunningham played and Brandon Jack, so those young guys are playing their roles as well. It's great to see and helps the older guys out.
Thought Pikey was amazing today. We talked about Tippett being such an inside target for you guys, but today Pike really stood up.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, just to have Goodsy and Reedy out, those guys need to play their role, and Jesse White played really well again. So to have the injuries we've had and the guys playing their roles is really pleasing, and leaves us in good stead for the rest of the year.
Now, I don't want you to be shy on this one. We asked who's the best midfielder in this team. It's got to be you right now, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, there's no doubt. I'm telling you, there's no doubt Kieran Jack's the best going around, mate. He's the hardest two-way runner, I reckon, in the comp, mate. So, he's one of the guys that leads from the front, and everyone tries to go follow his lead. So, we all pull our way, and it's great to get a good win over here.
Well, mate, if he's number one, you're not too far behind him. 40 possessions and 2 goals, mate. Well done.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate.
Yes, he was far and away the biggest ball winner on the ground. 40 disposals, 14 contested possessions. The Swans had all the answers when it mattered. A dynamic second quarter setting up the day, and they've won 17-11, 113 to 11-13, 79. It was a rivalry that was ignited through a wonderful period of footy, 2005 and 2006. Sydney Swans and the West Coast Eagles, and again a fierce battle today, but the Sydney Swans had all the answers and they've won this game by 34 points at Patterson Stadium, and that man, Daniel Hanbury, what a star. 40 disposals, and he's been given the trophy along with Jared McVeigh. Today's game honouring the special significance of the loss of HMAS Sydney 2 on November 1941 off the West Australian coast with all 645 aboard. The wreck was discovered in March 2008. So the Swans winning 17-11, 113 to 11-13, 79. You couldn't help but be impressed by their performance, Gerard and Jono.
Yeah, spot on, Hutto, and you can see the numbers there. Tippett, the number one scorer for the Sydney Swans with 3, and Kennedy goes to the top of the award with 4 goals at the other end of the ground. He was a lone hand in many respects, but a most impressive performance by the Sydney Swans midfield.
Well, it was their cut running ability, just their ability to push back to defence and then just go hard forward. If the ball's turned over, then they're turning and going again. They just make it difficult for the opposition to get any clear ball going through the middle of the ground. They push them wide, which then makes it easier for them to set up defensively.
Well, there's Jesse White and Grundy, and a lot of Sydney Swan supporters have travelled. There are a number of Sydney Swan supporters in Western Australia, but an epic performance by this group that travelled to the other side of the ground and put on a stellar display. It was that second quarter when they kicked 6 goals to 2 that really did blow it apart. Ted Richards, he had a big battle. It was a really good battle with Jack Darling, but he has built a hell of a career with his second club.
Well, it was, and he just copped the West Coast Eagles scarf there as well, and was quick to take that off and get it back over the fence. But himself and Grundy really do set things up in terms of their ability to try and lock onto the best, and then the smalls get back and help out. Malcheski's one of those that gets back. Nick Smith had a good game today in his running ability coming out of defence. Rampy's growing every time you watch him play as well. So the defensive end starting to settle down a little bit, and their forward end of the ground is very strong, especially with that man on screen having a good game today.
Well, he should be happy. He's been under the pump, and he's had to work really hard to get an opportunity. Injuries have given him that opportunity, and now his kicking through the midfield is an asset. He's built a tank big enough to, I guess, complement his ability, and it's going to be interesting to see just if the Sydney Swans get their other tools back, just how selection falls. But it was an interesting last quarter. It looked at three-quarter time, for all intents and purposes, that the Eagles had fired their last shot and the Swans were going to go on and have a 10-goal lead, but it wasn't the case. The Swans put the cue in the rack, and the Eagles gave themselves half a chance.
Well, they did, back to 22 points on a couple of occasions, then just couldn't get that next clearance going forward. When they did challenge for that second time, it was Kennedy from the Sydney Swans. He was the one to stand up. He was the one that impressed you, Gerard, with a great burst of 5 minutes of footy that set up his team for a couple of goals. He got involved himself, and that's what ended up turning the game back in Sydney's favour.
Well, in many ways, the battle of Joe Kennedys.
Yeah,
one at one end of the ground, Josh, and one in the middle. Here's a long kick to Tippett. That probably sealed the game in many respects, but Joe Kennedy for the Sydney Swans, he just did so much good work with the ball in his hands. There's a throw, but wasn't paid. But anyway, Marston snapped around the corner to keep their faint chances alive, and the crowd started to get involved. But have a look here at Kennedy and his establishment of this opportunity. Just cuts inside after taking the ball off the pack and gives it to the man who won the medal in Dan Hanbury to kick a goal.
How good was his positioning there in Kennedy? Just knew that Tippett was going to come over, knew exactly where the ball was going to fall. Even if he didn't have Hanbury there, he would have been able to kick the goal himself.
Dan Hanbury, one of the great players of the competition in the first 6 or 7 weeks, building a fine reputation as a match winner. He's drawing a lot of inside competition and a lot of lockdown players, but he burst them open. I mean, his work rate today was superb, and we've shown this one a couple of times. A couple of possessions on the half-back flank, ends up kicking a goal on the half-forward.
Early in the game, and that sets the tone, and his teammates see that, they identify that. The younger players then drive off the back of that as well, and blokes like Lamb and Mitchell and players of the younger brigade for the Sydney Swans, they get involved because of these senior players that just show the way.
It was an interesting tribute he paid to Kieran Jackie's skipper, though, for being the number one two-way runner in the game. Here it is once again. That's just a great move from Josh Kennedy, getting it onto Dan Hanbury. But they've got half a dozen very similar players, and the pressure is on now for midfield spot.
Well, it is. You'd love to be at pre-season training, wouldn't you, with the Sydney Swans and just see Kennedy, Jack McVeigh, O'Keefe, Bird, Mitchell, all these guys just going at it. Their 1K time trials would just be flat out, and you'd nearly see them all come across the finish line together, and that's where John Longmire just must sit back and go, well, look at the group we've got. How good are they going?
Yeah, it's their pressure skills. I mean, you can hear just in their language to each other that they value the defensive running as much as they value the attacking running. And I reckon there were times today where Andrew Gaffer, who's a really hard worker, but he was given a lesson today by a couple of Swans midfielders at the level he needs to aspire to get to.
Well, that's right, and a lot of them were as well. You mentioned Gaff there, and they did have a bit of running power out today, the West Coast Eagles, but even the likes of Marston at times, as hard as he runs, I think he sees today the next level that he needs to get to in another big summer for himself to take his game to another level, and that helps the midfield as a whole for the West Coast Eagles.
I reckon Kieran Jack would have been voted second best on the ground, if not best on the ground. It was Dan Hanbury got the votes and the medal, but it was Kieran Jack for mine who set the tone very early in the piece. He's an amazing young player with a great heritage, we know, famous family, and his younger brother now in the side. So the name Jack is now very much synonymous with this team.
And as you see the 2 goals there, 7 clearances to go with that, 3 tackles. So he just does it all. Contested possessions, he's had 15. A good spread today for Kieran Jack. He had 15 contested possessions, 16 uncontested possessions. So doing it both in tight and then providing this run and drive and creativity for his team.
But you can see there he looked up, there was nothing to give, so then he has to turn back. He's a really clever player, and I don't think he gets acknowledged for just how smart he is. He's a hard runner, a hard worker and a tough player, but he's got plenty of this stuff up here as well, Jono.
Well, he's got plenty of smarts, and you can just see his brother will be following him around everywhere at the Sydney Swans at the moment, trying to get his game to that level over the next 3 to 4 years.
And what about the Eagles at the present time? I think their work ethic has been questioned today, but that's been really one of their strong suits over the last month.
Yeah, it has been. Look, they lost to Essendon. It was the last quarter. They lost to Fremantle in the Derby last week, and that was in the last quarter as well. So the top 4 sides, they just haven't been able to put things together for a full game, and we can see there that against the top 8 sides, they've lost on a number of occasions there.
Yeah, 2 to Hawthorn, 1 to Essendon, 1 to the Sydney Swans, a couple to Fremantle. I think we'll get our security guards to get off our graphic at this stage a couple of times there.
Once to Richmond
and once to Port Adelaide. So at the end of round 17, they are yet to beat somebody in the top 8, and that is really a phenomenal outcome given it just how strong a pre-season favourites the West Coast Eagles were.
Well, that's right. Most people had West Coast dropping into the top 2 this year, and it's certainly not going to be the case, but it was on the back too. They had some senior players that were out last year, especially some goal-kicking power to come back into the side. A couple of those players have come back in, but still it's just not enough at the moment for the West Coast Eagles.
Well, we had the bird's eye view. Cameron Mooney had the view from ground level. At the moment he's in the victorious Sydney Swans room. And Cameron, your thoughts on the game? You've been there, you know what it's like to win premierships, and you know the difficulty is going back to back. Well, right now the Cats have dropped the game. We didn't expect them to drop, and it's opened up the spot in the top 4 for the Sydney Swans. How do you think they're tracking?
Look, we did speak about how hard it is to go back to back, and it is really tough. But look, these guys are in prime position at the moment, and we spoke with Dan Hanbury after the game about the way, Kieran Jack, he just promotes his 2-way running, and they all do it, let's be honest. A lot of them through that midfield know how to attack and they know how to defend, and that's the hardest thing to try and get a midfield to do week in and week out, and they're doing it, hitting some great form. Their forwards up front with Pike and Tippett were really good today, and we know they've got some stars to come back into the team. So they're looking in a really good spot at the moment. They walked through the door, they were pumped, they're excited, they sang the song with some gusto. They went out to the crowd down the other end of the ground and really just hemmed it up with them, so they're excited. Look, they're in great form, they're in a great position, boys, and I can't see right now why they can't be there right at the end of the year.
I agree, Moons, and on the back of that as well, they had 11 individual goal kickers today, and I know that's a big stat that you look for there as well, because you need a good spread. You need 10 plus on a weekly basis if you can to really challenge when it's tight in some big finals.
Look, you want to be unpredictable when you go inside 50, Jono, and I don't think over the last couple of weeks, even though they were scoring, that they'll be in that unpredictable side, always going to tip it. But today we saw Pike step up, we saw Mummy take some marks, we saw Kennedy down there, and we, like you said, 9 or 10 different goal kickers, or 11 I think. But that is incredible. You want that week in and week out to be that unpredictable side going inside 50, which makes it so much harder for the team, the defence of the other team, to really know where it's going. That's when you score your easier goals, I think.
We're just having a look at the highlights. Good job down there, Cameron. We might get you to get us an interview down the track. But Jesse White is a really interesting one. We've spoken about him, but I reckon he's given himself a genuine chance on the back of today, Jono, to push into this top 22.
Yeah, he had 14 disposals, kicked the goal, but seeing Jesse White play a fair bit, and normally he cashes in when the game's done. When the game's over, Jesse White will jump up, he'll kick a couple of goals, lead up, take a couple of marks. Today he did it when the game was on, when it was hot in the first quarter, when they needed someone to stand up, a forward to present, he was the one to do it.
Here's the ladder as it stands at the end of round 17. It's the Hawks on top. They struggled over the weekend against the Bulldogs, but they got the vital 4 points. Essendon continue on just a game behind. And Geelong have now exposed themselves, along with the Sydney Swans, 2 points behind, given they had that draw with Fremantle, who are now a little bit concerned, given that they have dropped the game to the Tigers today.
Well, they would have loved that one, Fremantle, wouldn't they? They would have been right up there, just within touching, within grasp of that top 4 spot, which is so important, especially with a home final. And you see the West Coast Eagles, they're losing today. They sit 28 points for the season.
Well, Jono, you did the flight over from Sydney overnight, and you know exactly how hard it is. And the Sydney Swans came over, and they were victorious, and they get the right to sing the song.